My knuckles were white against the steering wheel, the engine of my modest sedan idling roughly against the pristine, mirrored glass walls of the Onyx Lounge. I slammed my palm against the dashboard, a sharp, ragged breath escaping my throat as I stared at the flashing marquee across the valet lane. St. Jude's Academy, 10-year reunion. 10 years. 10 years of building my own landscape architecture firm. 10 years of therapy. 10 years of burying the memories of being the only scholarship girl of West African descent in a sea of inherited millions. And yet my knees were shaking so hard I could barely hold the brake pedal down. I shifted into park, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, ready to put the car in reverse and vanish back into the Dallas night. Before my foot could hit the gas, the valet door flew open, and a young man in a crisp uniform bowed slightly. "Good evening. Welcome to the Onyx Lounge, ma'am. May I have your name for the guest list?" "Ama," I forced out, my voice thick. "Ama Tang." The valet's eyes widened instantly, his polite smile freezing into a look of absolute shock. He didn't check his tablet. Instead, he reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a sleek, heavy black titanium card embossed with gold lettering. "Ms. Tang, we have been instructed to give this to you immediately upon arrival. You do not need to check in at the front desk. This card grants you absolute override access to the entire penthouse level." I stared at the heavy metal card in my hand, my brain short-circuiting. An unpredictable plot twist right at the threshold. I hadn't even stepped inside, and already the rules of the night were shattered. St. Jude's alumni were notorious pranksters, and Victoria Davenport, the undisputed queen of our high school hierarchy, loved nothing more than an elaborate public execution. This card had to be a setup, a cruel joke designed to make me walk into a restricted area and get thrown out by security in front of everyone. My chest tightened with a volatile mix of fury and fear, but a deeper, fiercer part of me refused to run. I gripped the card, stepped out of the car in my emerald silk gown, and let the doors of the luxury hotel swallow me whole. The elevator ride to the rooftop ballroom was a suffocating ascent. When the doors slid open, the sheer opulence of the Onyx Lounge hit me like a physical blow. Crystal chandeliers cast a predatory glow over a sea of designer tuxedos and diamond tennis bracelets. I kept my chin high, pulling out my phone to fake an urgent business email just to give my hand something to do, trying desperately to blend into the shadows of the marble pillars. Well, look what the cat dragged in from the public transit line." The voice was pure silk and venom. I froze, turning slowly to face Victoria Davenport. She stood there, flanked by her usual echo chamber, Olivia and Chloe, all three of them dripping in high jewelry and holding champagne flutes like weapons. Victoria looked me up and down, her eyes lingering on my bare neck and the simple, elegant line of my dress. "Victoria," I said, keeping my voice as level as concrete, "it's been a long time. Clearly not long enough for you to learn how to accessorize, darling." Victoria chuckled, a low, mocking sound that made Olivia and Chloe instantly snicker. "When I saw your name on the RSVP list, I genuinely thought it was a glitch. I mean, after your parents practically begged the school board for that tuition waiver senior year, we all assumed you'd be, well, somewhere a bit more modest. Are you still doing that little gardening hobby? Digging up dirt for a living?" "I own a luxury landscape architecture firm, Victoria," I replied, my eyes locking onto hers, refusing to look down. "We just closed a 7-figure contract for the city's new botanical conservatory." "Oh, sweetie, bless your heart," Victoria said, patting my arm with a condescending pat that made my skin crawl. "A contract? How adorable. But let's be real. No matter how much dirt you move around, you're still just the girl who had to clean the art supplies after class to earn her keep. It must be so exhausting, pretending you belong in a room like this when everyone knows you're just a single, lonely woman trying to build a career because no one wanted to buy you a ring." The cruelty was so fast, so precise, It felt like high school all over again. The emotional weight of her words threatened to crush me, pressing down on the old scars of being isolated, labeled, and discarded. If you've ever had someone try to diminish your hard work and make you feel invisible, drop a comment right now and tell me how you fought back. Before I could fire back, the crowd behind Victoria parted, and my breath caught entirely. Walking toward us was Julian. Julian, the boy I had shared secret, whispered conversations with in the library after hours. The boy who had promised me he didn't care about social status. Right before he completely ignored me at graduation to stay in Victoria's good graces. He wasn't alone. Holding his arm was Elena, a gorgeous, polished heiress whose family owned half the real estate in downtown Dallas. Julian, I breathed, the vulnerability slipping through my defenses before I could stop it. Julian stopped, his eyes meeting mine for a fraction of a second. A flash of recognition, maybe even guilt, crossed his face, but it was wiped clean in an instant. He gave me a polite, entirely detached nod. "Hello, Alma. Good to see you doing well." "Just well," Victoria interjected, her voice dripping with malicious glee. "Julian, darling, Alma was just telling us about her little gardening business. I was just reminding her of the old days. You remember how she used to wear that same washed-out blazer to every single school assembly because her family couldn't afford the official uniform?" I looked at Julian, silently begging him with my eyes to say something, to honor the girl he used to know. Instead, he adjusted his cuff links, leaning into Elena's side. "High school was a long time ago, Victoria. We all had our roles to play. Elena, honey, let's go grab a drink near the VIP section. The air is a bit thick over here." He walked away. He didn't just ignore me. He actively chose the side of the people who wanted to see me bleed. The humiliation was a hot wave rising up my throat. I could feel the eyes of nearby alumni burning into my back, whispering, enjoying the spectacle of the scholarship girl getting put back in her place. My vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. I spun on my heel, ignoring Victoria's parting laughter, and practically ran toward the corridor leading to the luxury restrooms. I slammed the heavy oak door shut, locked myself inside a marble stall, and let the first hair fall. The raw emotion of a decade's worth of rejection came crashing down. I was a grown woman, a successful business owner, and yet these people still had the power to make me feel like a terrified, unwanted teenager. I leaned my head against the cold stone wall, sobbing silently, counting the seconds until I could gather enough strength to walk out of the hotel, find my car, and never look back. I spent 10 minutes scrubbing my face with cold water, forcing the tears back into my chest, and reconstructing my armor. I am Ama Tang. I built my life from nothing. I will not let them see me run. I threw the paper towel into the bin, squared my shoulders, and pushed the restroom doors open, stepping back out into the main corridor. But the moment my heels hit the hardwood, I realized the music had stopped. The entire ballroom was dead silent. The low hum of elite chatter, the clinking of champagne glasses, the performative laughter, all of it had been completely vacuumed out of the room. A strange, electric tension hung over the crowd, and every single face was turned toward the main entrance of the penthouse. I walked slowly back into the space, my eyes tracking the collective gaze of the room. Standing in the doorway, flanked by a security detail of 6 men in identical dark suits, was a man who looked like he owned the concept of power itself. He wore a bespoke, midnight black suit that absorbed the light of the chandeliers. His posture was effortless, his expression a mask of calm, lethal composure. It was Kang Jun Woo, the legendary, intensely private international tech titan and global hotelier who had recently acquired the entire Onyx hotel chain. The local Dallas elite looked like children compared to him. I watched as Victoria Davenport's eyes widened to the size of saucers. She immediately began smoothing down her dress, her entitlement transforming into a desperate, feral hunger to align herself with a man of his stature. She took a step forward, ready to position herself as the welcoming committee. But Jun Woo didn't look at the crowd. He didn't look at the venue managers bowing at his side. His sharp, dark eyes swept across the ballroom, ignoring the wealth, ignoring the privilege, scanning the faces until they locked directly onto mine. The breath left my lungs. My hand drifted to my purse, where the heavy black titanium card rested against my palm. The twist slammed into place with the force of a freight train. He wasn't here for the hotel. He was here for me. Jun Woo's footsteps echoed with a heavy, deliberate rhythm against the polished marble floor. The crowd parted instantly, like a wave hitting a solid rock, creating a wide path that led straight to where I stood frozen against the pillar. I could hear my own heart hammering in my ears, a frantic, wild beat that drowned out the low murmurs rising from the alumni. Victoria took a sharp, calculated breath, her face twisting into a practiced smile of pure charm. She stepped directly into his path, her diamond bracelet flashing under the chandeliers as she extended a manicured hand. "Mr. Jean, what an absolute honor. I'm Victoria Davenport. Our family's firm actually manages the local real estate portfolio for—" Jun Woo didn't even slow down. His gaze remained locked entirely on me, his shoulder brushing past Victoria as if she were nothing more than a piece of cheap staging furniture. Her hand hung in the air, her smile freezing into a horrific mask of public embarrassment. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. He stopped exactly 2 feet in front of me. The sheer physical presence of the man was overwhelming. He was taller than I remembered, his dark eyes carrying an intense, burning focus that made the entire room disappear. The stoic, cold expression he had worn when entering the ballroom melted into something raw and deeply intimate. "Baby, there you are." His voice resonated loudly in the absolute silence of the ballroom. He didn't whisper it. He said it with a calm, heavy authority that claimed the space entirely. "I've been waiting for you." My jaw dropped, my brain struggling to process the words. "Excuse me?" I managed to breathe, my fingers tightening around the edge of my clutch. "Mr. Jean, I don't. What are you doing here?" "I told you I would find you, Ama," he said softly, ignoring the hundreds of eyes staring at us. He reached out, his long, warm fingers gently brushing against my bare wrist, right over the pulse point that was currently throbbing like crazy. "Did you really think a few thousand miles would make me forget?" The whispers erupted around us like a swarm of hornets. "Is that Ama Tang? How does she know Kang Jun Woo? Did he just call her baby? No way. She's a nobody." I could see Victoria's face turning a dangerous shade of crimson from the corner of my eye. She couldn't handle the spotlight being ripped away from her, especially not by me. Before I could even find my voice to reply, Julian stepped forward from the VIP boundary. His face was pale, his eyes darting between my wrist where Jun Woo's hand rested and Jun Woo's face. "Mr. Jean, I apologize for interrupting, but there must be a misunderstanding here. This is Ama Tang. She's just a local contractor. I've known her since high school. If she's bothering you or using some sort of fake credential to get into this section, I can have security remove her." I felt a sickening jolt of betrayal all over again. Julian was actively trying to destroy the only shred of dignity I had left in this room, just to look protective in front of a billionaire. Jun Woo turned his head slowly, his eyes narrowing into 2 icy slits as he looked at Julian. The warmth vanished from his face instantly, replaced by a terrifying, predatory stillness. "And who are you?" "Julian Moore, sir," Julian said, straightening his posture, trying to sound confident despite his voice cracking slightly. "My father is the senior partner at Moore & Associates. We are currently finalizing the underwriting contract for your new Dallas high-rise development. I'm intimately familiar with your security protocols, and I know Ms. Tang doesn't belong in your circle." Jun Woo let out a short, humorless laugh that sent a shiver straight down my spine. Julian Moore. Ah, yes. The junior analyst who spent the last 3 weeks begging my executive board for an appointment. Jun Woo stepped closer to Julian, his towering frame completely eclipsing him. You think she doesn't belong here? Let me make something entirely clear to you, Mr. Moore. The black titanium card in her purse doesn't just grant her access to this room. It grants her access to my life. And as of this exact second, your father's firm is completely stripped of the Dallas contract. Effective immediately. The entire room went dead silent again. Elena let go of Julian's arm as if he had suddenly caught on fire. Julian's face drained of all color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Mr. Jean, please, it was just a mistake. I was trying to protect your privacy. Get out of my sight, Jun Woo said, his voice quiet but carrying the force of an executioner's blade. 2 of his massive security guards immediately stepped forward, flanking Julian and silently guiding him toward the service elevators. If you've ever seen an arrogant ex get exactly what they deserved in real time, hit that subscribe button right now, because the justice is just getting started. Jun Woo turned back to me, his expression softening back into that intense, magnetic warmth. He offered his arm, his dark eyes searching my face. The air in here is toxic, Ama. Let's get some fresh air. We have a year of missed time to make up for. My mind was spinning, a chaotic whirlwind of shock, vindication, and absolute terror. I looked at his extended arm, then looked back at Victoria, who was staring at me with a mix of horror and raw envy. I placed my hand on his sleeve, the expensive fabric smooth under my palm, and let him lead me away from the center of the ballroom toward the private, glass-enclosed terrace overlooking the city lights. The moment the heavy glass doors slid shut behind us, the muffled sounds of the reunion vanished, replaced by the low hum of the Dallas traffic far below. The cool night air hit my face, shocking me back into reality. I pulled my hand back, stepping away from him, my defensive walls snapping right back into place. Okay, stop, I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and confusion. What is this? Why'd you do that out there? Why did you call me that name? You ruined Julian's entire career in 5 seconds, and you don't even know me. Jun Woo leaned back against the terrace railing, folding his arms across his chest. A small, enigmatic smile played at the corners of his lips. I don't know you. Ama, I know you graduated top of your class at Emory. I know you spent 3 years working yourself to the bone at a corporate firm before starting your own landscape architecture business. I know you prefer black coffee with exactly half a packet of raw sugar, and I know that when you're overwhelmed, you bite the inside of your lip until it bleeds. I took a sharp step back, my heart pounding violently. A cold sweat broke out across my collarbone. This wasn't just a coincidence. This was an obsession. How you know all of that? Have you been spying on me? Who are you really? I'm the man you saved, Ama, he said, his voice dropping to a low, gravelly whisper that vibrated through my chest. He reached into his inner pocket and pulled out a small, faded plastic object, holding it out into the moonlight. I looked down at his hand. It was a cheap, yellow plastic umbrella handle, broken at the base, completely out of place against his immaculate bespoke suit. The memories hit me like a physical tidal wave, unlocking a door in my mind that I had forced shut a year ago. The rainy night in Incheon, the neon lights bleeding into the wet pavement, the absolute desperation of a man sitting on a concrete bench in the pouring rain, looking like his entire world had just ended. It can't be, I whispered, my hands flying to my mouth as I looked from the broken yellow handle up to his perfectly sculpted face. You were the stranger on the bench. He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. A year ago, my own blood relative leaked our proprietary source code to our biggest competitor, trying to force me out of the company my father built. I walked out of that boardroom in Incheon with nothing but the clothes on my back, wandering the streets in a storm, wondering if a single person on this planet was real. Every relationship I ever had was a transaction. Every person who smiled at me wanted a piece of my wealth. He took a step closer, the distance between us shrinking until I could smell the faint scent of sandalwood and rain on his skin. And then you walked up, a foreign tourist with a wet map and a cheap yellow umbrella. You didn't know my name. You didn't know I owned the tech infrastructure of half the continent. You just saw a human being freezing in the dark. You gave me your umbrella. You forced a hot can coffee into my freezing hands, and you told me that whatever was broken could be rebuilt. Then you walked away into the fog before I could even ask your name. I just did what anyone would do. I stammered, the tears threatening to rise again, but this time for an entirely different reason. The raw emotion of that memory, the sheer vulnerability of that broken stranger, contrasted so sharply with the powerful titan standing before me now. No, Jun Woo said, his voice fierce with conviction. Nobody does that, Ama. I spent 8 months and millions of dollars tracking down the owner of that umbrella. And when my investigators found you, I discovered you were fighting your own battles here in Dallas, building an empire from the dirt up while the people inside that ballroom tried to make you feel invisible. He reached out, his hand gently cupping my cheek. His palm was warm against my cold skin, and for the first time in 10 years, the heavy, suffocating weight of my past felt lighter. I didn't come here tonight to show off, Ama. I came here to give you the leverage you deserve. I bought this entire hotel chain 3 weeks ago, just so I could ensure this reunion happened on my territory. I wanted to see exactly who had been making the woman I love feel small. The plot twist hit me like a lightning bolt. He didn't just find me. He bought the hotel chain. He orchestrated the entire backdrop of my vindication. But just as the warmth started to wrap around my heart, the terrace doors flew open with a violent shatter of high heels against stone. Victoria Davenport stood there, her eyes wild, a wicked, desperate grin stretching across her face as she held up her phone, a live video feed glowing on the screen. "Oh, Ama, you really thought you played us all, didn't you?" Victoria shrieked, her voice shaking with malicious triumph. "Look at the screen, Mr. Jean. Your little charity case isn't who you think she is. I just called my father's legal team. Ama Tang didn't build any luxury architecture firm. Her company filed for emergency corporate restructuring 2 days ago. She's completely bankrupt, an absolute fraud who targeted you for your money." My stomach dropped into a bottomless, icy pit. The public humiliation I thought I had escaped came roaring back with a vengeance. I stared at Victoria's screen, seeing the red, bold letters of the corporate filing. Tang Architectural Group, restructuring and asset allocation. "Victoria, you don't understand what you're looking at," I whispered, my voice trembling as my defenses crumbled entirely. I looked at Jun Woo, panic seizing my throat. "Jun Woo, I swear it's not what she thinks. I didn't hide anything from you. I didn't even know you were looking for me." "Oh, save the tears, Ama." Victoria laughed, stepping onto the balcony, her phone camera pointed directly at my face. "The whole school is watching this live on our alumni group chat right now. The scholarship girl tried to trap a billionaire, and she got caught on the hook. Mr. Jean, she used your naive sense of gratitude to worm her way into your pocketbook. She's ruined." Jun Woo didn't flinch. He didn't pull his hand away from my cheek. Instead, he turned his head slowly to face Victoria, his expression completely unreadable, devoid of any panic or shock. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his own phone, and tapped a single button. "Put the phone down, Victoria," Jun Woo said, his voice incredibly quiet, yet it carried a chill that seemed to drop the terrace temperature by 10 degrees. "Why should I?" Victoria scoffed, tossing her hair back. "I'm exposing a liar. You should be thanking me for saving your fortune." "You didn't save anything," Jun Woo replied calmly. "If you had actually paid attention in your family's business classes instead of bullying your classmates, You would know the difference between a Chapter 7 liquidation and a strategic acquisition restructuring. Ama's company isn't bankrupt. 2 days ago, an anonymous institutional fund bought out her toxic minority partners who were trying to siphon her profits. Victoria's grin faltered, her phone lowering slightly. What fund? Mine, Jun Woo said, a cold, Victoria's smirk cutting across his face. I purchased those shares for $40 million and transferred absolute, 100% ownership back to Ama Tang. The restructuring was her absorbing my North American commercial landscaping division. As of 48 hours ago, Ama's net worth exceeds your father's entire real estate portfolio combined. She didn't target my money, Victoria. I forced mine into her company because she is the most brilliant designer I have ever encountered. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria looked at the screen of her phone, where the live comment section of the alumni chat was exploding with messages of absolute shock and mockery, directed entirely at her. She had streamed her own absolute destruction to the entire graduating class. No, that's impossible, Victoria stammered, her heels clicking backward as she shook her head in denial. She's nobody. She washed the paintbrushes. She lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of the city. And yet, she owns you now, I said, stepping forward, my voice suddenly finding a power I didn't know I possessed. The fear was gone. The 10 years of shame, the isolation, the feeling of being smaller than everyone else. It vanished, melting away into the crisp night air. I looked Victoria dead in the eye. I spent a decade letting the ghost of your opinion dictate my worth, Victoria. But look at you now. You're holding a cell phone, begging for attention from a crowd that is currently laughing at your ignorance. You haven't grown a single inch since graduation. If you've been waiting for the ultimate moment of sweet revenge against the bullies who try to break you, hit that share button right now, because the final curtain is about to fall. Jun Woo stepped up beside me, his arm wrapping firmly around my waist, pulling me against his side in a gesture of absolute, public alignment. He looked at Victoria one last time, his voice dripping with utter disdain. Security will escort you off the premises immediately, Ms. Davenport. You are banned from every property under the Gene Global umbrella worldwide. Enjoy the rest of your evening. As the guard stepped onto the balcony to lead a sobbing, humiliated Victoria away, Jun Woo turned back to me, his eyes searching mine with a soft, desperate hope. Are you ready to leave this place behind, Ama? I looked back through the glass doors of the ballroom, at the classmates who had ignored me, the boy who had betrayed me, and the hierarchy that had tried to crush my spirit. They all stood there, watching us through the glass, their faces filled with awe and unearned respect. I realized then that I didn't need their validation. I never did. My success was mine, built from the dirt, and the man standing beside me saw my soul before he ever knew my bank account. Yes, I smiled, a genuine, radiant laugh escaping my lips for the first time all night. Let's go home. We walked back through the ballroom, hand in hand, our heads held high as the crowd parted in absolute reverence. We stepped into the private elevator, plunging down toward the warm Dallas night, leaving the ghosts of St. Jude's Academy in the dust forever. I was no longer the invisible scholarship girl. I was Ama Tang. If you want to find out how Victoria tries to sabotage Ama's business next, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below telling me what you think will happen next.